Here we go. Hello, I'm Phoebe Boucher, managing editor at Raven Chronicles Press. Raven is a Northwest literary organization that's been around since 1991. This is part of a years-long series, Raven Chronicles Banned Books Project. Raven will be posting on our YouTube channel episodes of writers reading excerpts from banned books that are either meaningful to them or are of historical or literary importance. Today we have Banned Books episode number 6 with David D. Horowitz. David is the founder of Rose Alley Press. It is named for the London street where, on December 18, 1679, just a couple days ago, poet and playwright John Dryden was brutally beaten by 3 thugs. Evidence suggests that excuse me, I drink water too fast. Evidence suggests that an aristocrat who had mistakenly attributed a satire to the authorship of Dryden hired the assailants. Undaunted, Dryden continued writing even more boldly than before the assault. Inspired by such perseverance, David established Rose Alley Press, which publishes rhymed and metered poetry, cultural commentary, and I'm not sure if he's still doing an annual updated booklet about writing and publication. He can let you know. Take it away, David.
All right. Thank you, Phoebe, for that generous introduction. I am going to be discussing the work of the great poet Ovid, who lived about 2,000 years ago in ancient Rome. I'm going to be focusing on his work, Ars Amatoria, the art of love, the art of amatory, the art of how to be a lover, basically, is what it comes down to. And the Ars Amatoria is on the translation I'm relying on, is by a fellow named by the name of Rolfe Humphries. It's an excellent translation, and I hope to, I will be reading quite a few selections from it. I'm going to divide my presentation into 3 parts. A couple of minutes at the beginning to discuss the historical background, because I think it's critically important to understand what happened to Ovid. And to do that, you really need to know what was going on in Rome at that time. And then secondly, I'll read 3 lyric poems from Ars Amatoria, and then also a slightly longer passage in which Ovid provides advice to young Roman men about how to ingratiate yourself with women. I think the poetry is very fine. It's written in elegiac couplets, and I think Ovid does a marvelous job of that. Not everything he says I would agree with. Some of what Ovid advises would constitute sexual harassment. I'm not in favor of that, but I do think this is a great work. It needs to be listened to. It needs to be read. Publius Ovid really would not be pronounced Ovid in Latin. The V in classical Latin is pronounced like a W. So his name really is Publius Ovidius Naso, and he lived from 43 BCE to 17 AD. He lived in Italy and was born and raised in Italy and moved to Rome at a fairly early age, lived in Rome for many years until 8 or you could say BC, or the Common Era, CE, I guess, at which time the Emperor Augustus banished him to the town of Tomis, which was in the province of Moesia on the Black Sea. It's contemporary Romania. Tomis is basically where Constanța, Romania is now. So he was banished because he had published this book, Ars Amatoria, and part of the book, Ars Amatoria, advises people about how to engage in adultery. At this time, 2 things are very important that I'll start reading Ovid. One, Augustus was a cultural conservative, an extreme cultural conservative. He had were forced through the Senate, a whole set of what were called the morality laws. He favored anybody who got married. If you had 3 or more kids, you had all kinds of tax breaks and inheritance breaks. If you were an adult who was not married, especially a man over 38, you would be severely penalized. You would lose much of your inheritance. You couldn't go to certain games and events. A special tax was put on you. So there was a radical attempt to make Rome into a kind of a family-friendly, kind of almost like harshly conservative environment, because Augustus thought that there was a lot of social weakness due to people like Ovid who were corrupting young people. Second thing, and this will be the last point I make before I read the poetry, Rome was not just going through a phase of violence after the assassination of Julius Caesar. For 100 years, Rome was roiling with all kinds of tensions and problems. In the 130 to 120 era in BCE, the Gracchi brothers were activists, land reformers who were beaten. One, I believe, was assassinated, might have been the other brother too. Then in the 80s, 82, 83, there was a civil war between Sulla and Marius, their troops. Sulla declared himself dictator of Rome, so it didn't start with Julius Caesar. In 63, the Catiline conspiracy almost overthrew the Republic. And so you had a long history. Then Cicero was assassinated in 43 by Antony's troops. This has been going on a long, long time. So Augustus saw himself as preserving the stability of Rome. He didn't want a lot of dissent because they had just been through 100 years of civil war, and so people who are dissenters are troublemakers. Troublemakers cause instability. So that's, you'll often hear a rationalization of people who censor people. This is for social stability. This is for the community. We need to do this. Well, Ovid, one of the greatest poets who ever lived, gets caught up in this. Hey, you're promoting adultery. It's terrible. We have to get rid of you. There were a lot of other complexities here. Augustus had some family members who he thought were acting out and maybe were involved in an assassination plot. So he was paranoid, like so many of these emperors were. Last point, Augustus did not call himself an emperor. He called himself princeps, first citizen. He didn't want to look like he was usurping power from the Senate. He wanted to look like he was in the tradition of the Roman Republic, which he really wasn't, but to a degree he was. So let's read. I'm going to read some from the Ars Amatoria. I'm going to read 3 poems, lyric poems in the voice of Ovid, and then a slightly longer passage about seduction and how Roman men can engage in it. And I'll close. I'll read the last 6 lines, or the first 6 lines of that passage in Latin, so you just get a little sense of what the Latin sounds like. This is a translation by Rolfe Humphries, and I'm very, very impressed by it. It's very good. Poem 5 from his book 1 of the Loves. Hot noon, and I was lying on my bed, the window halfway open, and the light the way it is in woods when sun has fled after the day before the coming night, or before day, after the night has gone. For modest girls, a reassuring shade, just the right sort of light with curtains drawn, wherein to lay inviting ambuscade. And there Corinna entered, with her gown loosened a little, and on either side of her white neck the dark hair hanging down. Semiramis could not have been as bride any more lovely, nor could lace move the hearts of men more easily to love. Sheer though it was, I pulled the dress away. Pro forma, she resisted more or less. It offered little cover, I must say, and why put up a fight to save a dress? So soon she stood there, naked, and I saw, not only saw, but felt perfection there, hands moving over beauty without flaw, the breasts, the thighs, the triangle of hair. No need for catalogue to itemize all those delights, nor could I truly say that I confined my pleasure to my eyes. Naked I took her, naked, till we lay worn out, done in. Grant me, O gods, the boon of many such another sultry noon. Next, I'm going to read poem 11. And this Ovid addresses a slave whom he calls Nippy. And don't forget, Rome was largely a slave society. 70% of people in Rome were slaves. So that was a large part of the population. You've been a good girl, Nippy, for a slave, giving good service in the stealthy night, adroit in brushing hair or setting wave, tipping me when I might not, and when I might. Often when your Corinna was in doubt whether to come, your urging brought her here. Take her this letter I have written out, and let no other business interfere. You have no flint or iron in your heart. You are no simpler than you have to be. Perhaps you too, wounded by Cupid's dart, could share campaign experience with me. Tell her, in case she asks, that I am living in hope of what tonight she may be giving. The rest is in the letter, and the hour is flying. Take it to her. If you find she does not say a word, you have the power, watching her countenance, to read her mind. Urge her, when she has read, to write a lot. I hate blank tablets like an empty stage. Tell her to make the letters small and not leave too much margin along the page. But no, that might tire out her pretty hand holding the pen. No need for that. She might put down 2 words, no more. I'd understand if all the answer said was, "Come tonight." I'd add a postscript, Ovid's gratitude to Venus for this wax and maple wood. The last poem I'll read from this part is the poem 12, and the tablet involved is a kind of a wax tablet on which you can scrawl letters. So it's that's what the response would have been written on. Weep, my bad luck. The answer came back no. The answer said, impossible today. Omens are something. Nippy stubbed her toe this morning when she started on her way. Next time, step higher, Nippy. As for you, disgusting tablets, gloomy wax and wood, no wonder you required a blushing hue. From minium you claim, but I say blood. Your wax, I think, was gathered from the flower of long-leaved hemlock, filched by Corsican bees, rank purgative, shipped in an evil hour. As for the wood, you worse than useless trees, lie where I fling you, on the dirty road. Let the wheel break you in the heavy load. As for the lumberman who lopped your leaves, converting you to use, the guilty wretch had better left you stand to string up thieves to give the neck of criminals a stretch, to offer shadow for the nesting haunts of buzzards, owls, and other ugly birds. Was it to you I trusted like a dunce, my fond endearments and my loving words? Better such tablets hold the wordy writ for some sour judge to read. Better they lie among day ledgers, suitable and fit for tearful miser's avaricious eye. Twin tablets, double dealers, and no good. May old age fade your wax and rot your wood. And the last poem, section of a poem I'm going to read, is a more the elegiac couplets in which there's some internal rhyme and there's a certain meter that he follows. But this is going to be about advising providing advice for young men about how to seduce women. Of course, this is the kind of thing that Augustus would be horrified over. You're corrupting young people. You're advocating adultery. We have to get rid of you. And they did get rid of him. Okay. One little point, bar here on the second line does not refer to a tavern. It refers to like the legal process. Young men of Rome, I advise you to learn the arts of the pleader, not so much for the sake of some poor wretch at the bar, but because women are moved as much as the people or senate, possibly more than a judge, conquered by eloquent words. But dissemble your powers and don't attempt to look learned. Let your periods shun rancorous terms of abuse. You would be out of your mind to go and declaim to your darling. Even in letters, beware using litigious terms. Let the style you employ be natural, easy, familiar, coaxing also, of course, so that she thinks you are there. If she refuses to read or sends back a letter unopened, hope that someday she will read. Don't be discouraged. Someday, Time brings the obdurate ox to submit to the yoke and the plowshare. Time brings the fiercest steed under the bridle and rein. Even an iron ring is worn by continual usage. Even the hardest ground crumbles at last from the plow. What is harder than rock? Or what more gentle than water? Yet the water in time hollows the rigidest stone. Only persist. You can have more luck than Penelope's suitors. Though it took a long time, Troy came tumbling down. What if she reads and won't answer? Do not attempt any pressure. Only supply her with more flattering missives to read. What she is willing to read, someday she'll be willing to answer. Everything in its time, everything by degrees. Maybe the first response will make you sad by its scolding, saying, "Don't write any more," saying, "Please let me alone." What she requests, that she fears, what she does not ask, she insists on. So go on with your work. Someday the day will be won. And I'm going to close with 6 lines of Latin. That passage, the first 6 lines of that passage. Disque bonas artes Romanu Juventus, non tantum trepidos tueare reosi, quam populus indexque graves lectusque senatus, tam dabit eloquio victa puella manus. Sed lateant vibes, nexis in fronte desertus, effugiant voces verba molesta tuae. Thank you for this opportunity. I hope that was of use.
Well, it sounds like it could have been written yesterday, not how many years ago was it?
That was published in 8 AD or 8 CE, 8 Common Era. So
Wow.
about 2017 years ago. This is a very good translation. Rolfe Humphries is very natural feeling. It doesn't have the bumpity
It does.
bumpity bump kind of feel of a lesser translation. That's
Who
one
was the
reason I
translator
read it.
again? Who was the translator?
Rolfe Humphries.
Oh, okay.
ROLF. It was published in 1957.
Wow.
So ROLFEHUMPHRERIES. The Art of Love, Ovid, Rolfe Humphries. It's very, very good. And I think he makes it contemporary, and yet he doesn't lose the historical reference.
Yeah. Could you email me that reference and I'll put it on when I put to your YouTube.
Got it. I'll
I'll
email it
include
to
that
you.
with the
No
book
problem.
because we're trying to put some information about the books too. But
Got
if
it. No
that
worries.
translation would be banned in most places today.
No queries. I'll send you the information right
Yeah.
after the presentation here.
Anyway, I appreciate it. This is going to be totally different than most of it's good to go back because history hasn't changed much. Augustus, I can see what he was doing. I think,
Exactly. It's like make
yeah,
Rome great again.
yeah. Oh, make great. Yeah, that's it.
That's exactly what it is. That's
Yeah.
exactly it. And there's a lot of complexity. There are some differences, but the fundamental human nature doesn't
Yes, but
change.
he wasn't a Trump. He wasn't a corrupt person, was
No,
it?
it wasn't as corrupt. There were some corruption laws that he even passed.
Oh.
Augustus is a mixed bag for me because of
Mhm.
that. He also
Uh-huh.
wasn't quite as brutal. I mean, some of them where they just snap a finger and
Right,
Ovid would have been dead.
right,
We're not sending him to Tomis. That's the end of it.
right,
So there's plenty of those, the
right,
Caracalla and on down.
right.
So the far worse. And Augustus ruled for 41 years from
Wow.
27 BCE to 14. So long rule.
Right.
It's a complicated story with him.
But he
But
wasn't assassinated at the end, was he? Like a lot of them.
no,
No.
he was not assassinated. The
Died.
worst for assassination, the third century, it's called the crisis of the third century, the military barracks emperors. That was after Septimius Severus died in 211. His sons, Geta and Caracalla, had
Hmm.
almost like a civil war, and huge numbers of people died. And
Yeah.
Caracalla, 212 to 217, was very brutal. He did open citizenship to a lot more people, partly because he wanted more people in the military. But
Right.
Caracalla was very brutal, and for many years. And then there was 235 to 238, this giant, the Thracian giant, Maximinus Thrax, was kind of didn't really have the ability to be the emperor, but he was huge and he intimidated people. And then after that, it just went downhill. You'll often see in movies like Gladiator, the
Right.
beginning of the fall of the Roman Empire in 1964, a really good movie. The son of Marcus Aurelius, Commodus. That sometimes you'll see when that really happens. Brutal. Those are the kinds of people that would just have thousands of people assassinated. Augustus had a little more decency than that.
Well, thanks for the history lesson.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go on and on, but
But we're on
it
the
is
epic of,
fascinating.
who knows what's going to happen in the next 3.5 years here. So,
Well, Commodus and Trump are like they're so
hmm,
exact, they're so similar. I won't go on. I've already spoken a lot, but
but
Commodus,
yeah.
Commodus. If you're looking for a Trump
Hmm.
mirror, Commodus. Uh, he, Commodus would go into the Colosseum and fight lions and tigers, these bedraggled old lions who could barely stand, and then he called himself the equivalent of Hercules.
Oh,
Just
gee.
a macho, toxic
Right.
masculinity disaster area. Anyway.
Well, thanks, David. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to talking to you again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Take care now.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.